By the way, we gave Gideon's this morning $367 in total. 200 being a check from the church, 167 being an offering from others this morning. If you have your Bibles or having your Bibles this morning, this evening, if you will, turn with me to the book of Mark. Book of Mark. Chapter 6. Mark, chapter 6. Remind you that Mark is a short book in comparison to the other Gospels. Mark is what he covers a lot of it in more of a summation kind of way, and not necessarily in depth. There's some benefit to that, but he doesn't necessarily go in the same degree as what some of the other Gospels do. When you've got to Mark 6, if you'll join me in standing. I don't know if you're there. Mark chapter 6 and verse 6. And I want to begin in the middle of the verse, because we went to the middle of the verse in the last message. And he went round about the villages teaching. He called unto him the 12 and began to send them forth by two and two, and gave them power over unclean spirits, and commanded them that they should take nothing of their journey, or for their journey, save a staff only, no scrip, no bread, no money in their purse, but be shod with sandals, and not put on two coats. And he said unto them, in what place soever ye enter into an house, there abide till ye depart from the place. And whosoever shall not receive you, nor hear you, when you depart thence, shake off the dust under your feet for a testimony against them. Verily I say unto you, it shall be more tolerable for Sodom and Gomorrah in the city of judgment than for that city. And they went out and preached that men should repent, and that they cast out many devils, and anointed with oil many that were sick, and healed them. Father, we thank you today and for new blessings, Lord. Away tonight. Lord, touch my throat. Open our hearts and our minds to your word, and help us that we might understand the purpose of this message tonight. Father, that we might grow, that we might be changed by it. Your glory, all we pray, in Jesus' precious holy name. Amen. I mentioned just a minute ago that Mark gives a summation somewhat, and I'm going to show you here in a minute why I say that, even more so. But in looking at this text, I noted who this is said to. And the purpose is the 12. He calls the 12. They're being sent out two and two. By the way, let me say something. When going out and visiting people, it's good to go two and two. It really is. The pattern he sets up here is really a good pattern to follow, that if something happens, there's always someone else there. Sometimes I remember going after I had Sense and going and visiting with him, and he had an opportunity to talk more fully with the person because I was taking care of his pet. And you think that's something, but if he was paying attention to his pet instead of me, he had more attention because I was playing with the pet and instead of the guy. And so it's good. There's other reasons beyond that, but it's good to go two and two. But I want you to note that he called the 12. Because at this point, he hadn't called them to him the 12 yet. He only had a few that were around him that were the group. Now he has the 12. He's called them and he's commissioning them to go out. I also want you to know that he here empowers them to remove or over unclean spirits. and that he sends them out with only a staff. There's no script, no bread, no money. There's no, in other words, there is no provisions. There's no way to get provisions. He sent them out, 2 and 2, with just a walking stick. What it amounts to. And he says, and put me shod with sandals, one pair of shoes, and do not put on 2 coats. In other words, this is one coat. You're not prepared for multiple things. Do you know sometimes you would use a second coat sometimes to cover with if you was going to sleep outside? There's reasons here for this. And then he goes on in verse 10, and I'm covering this pretty quickly for a purpose because I'm going somewhere else. And he said unto them, in what place soever you enter into an house, there abide till you depart from that place. So you go into a city, and you go to one house, and you stay in that house the whole time you're there in that city. And in that house, you find all your provisions. The food that you're going to eat, the shelter you need from it's the way it says to them. And whosoever shall not receive you, he goes on in verse 11, he tells them, if they don't receive you, then I want you, as you leave that city, to dust your sandals, the dust from your sandals off your feet. And in doing so, that you have in some sense pronounced judgment on them. It says in the last part of that verse, it shall be more tolerable for Sodom and Gomorrah that day of judgment than for that city. There's a thought there we're not going to cover tonight. And then it says in verse 12 and 13, and they went out and preached that men should repent. And they cast out many devils and anointed them with oil, many that were sick, and healed them. I read that, and having gone over a little bit of the content of what's there, and I guess I can't go very far, I didn't put some mic on. But, and going over some of the content that's there, I asked a question to myself as I looked at, what's the takeaway? Oh, lady, you got a car wash when you came to church this morning. You're getting another car wash when you came to church tonight. And there's a little bit of help mixed in. But as we come to this part, I asked myself, what's the takeaway? What are we supposed to learn from this? Is this how we should go? Should we go out and not take any preparation? Should we go out and not prepare in any way? Should we go out and rely on other people in totality? Should we? And that's what they were doing. And what is the takeaway in this? And I've told you before that the best commentary on the Bible is the Bible. And so I went to Matthew chapter 10. And I want to read that to you. I want to read the commentary to you if I may. So if you'll turn to Matthew 10, that would be a good place to be. Here is the expanded version of what Mark writes. There's a lot more information. This is a good place to find the name Peter even. In Matthew 10, he starts off, and then he had called unto him his 12 disciples. That's what he was doing in Mark Gospel. He gave them power against unclean spirits to cast them out and to heal all manner of sickness and all manner of disease. That's what they were doing. Now the names of the 12 apostles are these: the first, Simon, who is called Peter, and Andrew his brother, James the son of Zebedee, John his brother, Philip and Bartholomew, Thomas and Matthew the publican, James the son of Alphaeus, and Lebbaeus, whose surname was Thaddeus, Simon the Canaanite, and Judas Iscariot, who also betrayed him. These 12 Jesus sent forth. Now I want you to understand, we've already seen quite a bit of expanding of what we read in Mark. It's not what I'm looking for, but I've already seen a lot more information. Verse 5, he goes on and says, and commanded them, saying, Go not into the way of the Gentiles, and into the seat of the Samaritans, enter ye not, but go rather to thy lost sheep of the house of Israel. And by the way, we didn't see that mark either. We're just going to the lost house of Israel. Right now, all we're dealing with is Israel. Don't go to the Gentiles, don't go to the Samaritans. All we're dealing with right now is Israel. And as you go, preach, saying, the kingdom of heaven is at hand. This is the reason why they're preaching repentance, because the kingdom of heaven is at hand. Heal the sick, cleanse the leper, raise the dead, cast out devils. Freely ye have received, freely give. By the way, in this, as I was looking at this, I began to underline some faults. This is one of the first faults I underlined. Freely ye have received, freely give. What you have, God has given you. Freely you have received, freely give. And I wrote this in my notes, I wrote that down and put principle number 1. And then I read on, and it said, provide neither gold nor silver nor brass in your purses, nor scrip for your journey, neither 2 coats, neither shoes, nor that yet staves. The workman is worthy of his meat. Again, he has an expanded statement here in regard to what they aren't to take. And then he explains the workman is worthy of his meat. I underlined that too and put principle number 2. And then he goes on and says, and into whatsoever city or town or ye shall enter, inquire who in it is worthy, and there abide till ye go thence. And when ye come into a house, salute it. And if a house be worthy, let your peace come upon it. And if it be not worthy, let your peace return to you. And whosoever shall not receive you, nor hear your words when ye depart out of the house or city, shake off the dust of their feet. That sounds very familiar, does it not? He goes on and says in verse 15, Verily I say unto you, it shall be more tolerable the land of Sodom and Gomorrah in that day of judgment than for that city. Again, sounds very familiar. I want you to understand something. If you're like me, you just turn the page and you can see more where you're at. The entirety of chapter 10, plus the first verse of chapter 11, it covers what Mark wrote. Okay? So here we go, verse 16. We've already had more verses than what Mark wrote, verse 16. He says, Behold, I send you forth as sheep in the midst of wolves. Principle number 3, be ye therefore wise as serpents and harmless as doves. That's a pretty good advice. That we should be wise, but harmless. There's a wisdom that we should have, but we shouldn't be hurtful or harmful in that wisdom. But he goes on and says in verse 17, But beware of men, for they will deliver you up to the councils, and they will scourge you in the synagogue. And ye shall be brought before governors and kings for my sake, for the testimony against them and the Gentiles. Verse 19, 20. But when they deliver you up, take no thought how or what ye shall speak, for it shall be given you in that same hour what ye shall speak. For it is not ye that speak, but the Spirit of your Father which speaketh in you. There's a principle in that, but it's conditioned upon the situation. Note that. Verse 21, The brother shall deliver up the brother to death, and the father the child, and the children shall rise up against their parents, and cause them to be put to death. And ye shall be hated of all men for my name's sake, but he that endureth to the end shall be saved. But when they persecute you in the city, flee into another. For verily I say unto you, ye shall not have gone over the cities of Israel till the Son of Man be come. He says, listen, when they persecute you in one place, when you can't give the gospel there anymore, go on. Move to another place. And he says, the disciple is not above his master. I underline this one as well and put a principle, I think it's principle number 5. Okay? The disciple is not above his master, nor the servant above his Lord. Listen, what he's saying is that Christ himself will suffer. At this point, you haven't really seen it. At this point, we're in the beginning portion of Christ's ministry. At this point, the only place you really saw anything that was of anything against him was when he was over in the Gadarenes, and they didn't like the fact that he had caused a herd of swine to go into the ocean by casting the devils into them, and in his own town where he couldn't do anything because they didn't believe. That's the only place, really thing he ever had. At this point, that's all. But he's telling them, listen, I'm going to suffer. You're not above me. In fact, he tells another place, if I have suffered, they've hated me, they're going to hate you too. Verse 25, is it enough for the disciple to be as his master and the servant as his Lord? If they have called the master of the house Beelzebub, how much more shall they call him of the household? I want you to understand something. Christ has given them something here that hasn't happened yet, because he knows it's going to happen. Look at chapter 12 for a moment. And verse 24. But when the Pharisees heard it, they said, this fellow does cast out devils of Beelzebub, the prince of devils. It's going to happen. And he's preparing them for what's going to happen. Verse 26. Fear them not, therefore, for there is nothing covered that shall not be revealed, and that hid that shall not be known. And I probably should have underlined that as well and called it another principle, but I didn't. What I tell you in darkness, they speak in light, and what ye hear in the ear, that preach ye upon the housetops. And fear not them which kill the body, but are not able to kill the soul, but let us fear him which is able to destroy both the soul and body in hell. That's important to note. Are not two sparrows sold for a farthing, and one of them shall not fall to the ground without your Father, but the very hairs of your head are numbered. Fear ye not, therefore, ye are of more value than sparrows. There's another principle. We're more valuable than a bunch of sparrows, and he knows them. The ones that fall to the ground, except he knows it. He's telling us all this to the disciples before he sends them out. We got a little snippet of it in Mark. Matthew's given us a lot more, and I'm satisfied there's probably more than what Matthew writes. Whosoever therefore shall confess me before men, I will confess also before my Father which is in heaven. But whosoever shall deny me before men, him will I also deny before my Father which is in heaven. Think not that I am come to send peace on earth. I am come to send peace, not to send peace, but a sword. For I am come to set a man at variance against his father, and a daughter against her mother, and a daughter-in-law against her mother-in-law. And a man's foes shall be they of his own household. He that loveth father or mother more than me is not worthy of me. He that loveth son or daughter more than me is not worthy of me. He that taketh not his cross and followeth after me is not worthy of me. He that findeth his life shall lose it, and he that loseth his life for my sake shall find it. He that receiveth you receiveth me, and he that receiveth me receiveth him that sent me. He that receiveth a prophet in the name of a prophet shall receive a prophet's reward, and he that receiveth a righteous man in the name of a righteous man shall receive a righteous man's reward. And whosoever shall give a drink unto one of these little ones, a cup of cold water only in the name of a disciple, verily I say unto you, he shall in no wise lose his reward. And so you see, as Christ is commissioning them, he gives them all this information. It's a lot more than what you saw in Mark. And by the way, at this point, the question comes not so much what does one preach on out of this, is what do you choose to preach on out of this? Because there's so much there now. It had been expended so much. And I want to show you one more thing. In verse 1 of chapter 11, and it came to pass when Jesus had had an end of commanding his 12 disciples, he departed thence to teach and to preach in their cities. So once Christ sends the disciples out, he goes on alone to do his own work while they're out preaching. Sometimes the ministry is a ministry of aloneness, if you will. But I'm not in Matthew, I'm in Mark. And I'm not preaching on all that because I'm not in Matthew, I'm in Mark. But now you understand that what he told them was a lot more than what we see here in Mark. I'll show you something else. Book of Luke. In my notes, my study Bible here, Ryrie has put down that the idea, there's a verse that he was drawing comment to. He said, look over in Matthew 10:10, and there see the comments there. He didn't really say anything there either. But he did give me a thought. He sent me to the book of Luke from that point, in chapter 22. I want you to understand something. We're no longer at the beginning of Christ's ministry. We're now at the end of Christ's ministry. In fact, let me read you verse 35 to give you an idea of context. Excuse me, verse 34. And he said, I tell thee, Peter, the cock shall not crow this day before thou shalt thrice deny that thou knowest me. We're at the end of this ministry. We're no longer at the start of things. We're now at the very last day. When this day is over, Christ will be hanging on a cross. When the events that are proceeding following this statement to Peter, you're going to deny me 3 times, Peter, before the cock crows, before the events are complete, Christ will be hanging on a cross this day. At the end of his ministry. Verse 36. Then said he unto them, verse 35. I tried to get it too early now, so I was getting it all together. Verse 35. He said unto them, when I sent you without purse and scrip and shoes, lacked ye anything? And they said, nothing. Do you remember when that was? That was way back in Mark chapter 6. That was way back in Matthew chapter 10. And they said, listen, he says, when I sent you out that way, when I told you to go out unprepared, don't take any provisions, just go out there and do what I told you to do. When they went out, I said, did you lack anything? They said, no, nothing. Everything we needed, we had. We didn't lack anything. Verse 36. Then said he unto them, but now he that hath a purse, let him take it. That's not the same. And likewise his scrip. And he that hath no sword, let him sell his garment and buy one. For I say unto you that this that is written must yet be accomplished in me. And he was reckoned among the transgressors. For the things concerning me have an end. Christ is saying, listen, we're at that point where I will be reckoned among the transgressors. I will be considered a sinner while he's on the cross. Verse 38, and they said, Lord, behold, here are 2 swords. And he said unto them, it is enough. And you know that one of the swords was controlled by Peter. And Malchus found the sword that Peter had. He lost his ear. And Christ put it back on. I say all that to say this. What Christ told them at the beginning of the ministry and what Christ told them at the end of the ministry wasn't the same. In fact, he purposed to show them a difference. And when I'm looking at this, I'm thinking, what's the takeaway? What do I want to? What I need to say here? I realize that the comments that are made here in the book of Mark, and even the book of Matthew, some of it it's not always applicable. Sometimes, some of it's good at one time and not good at another. Like here, the beginning of Christ's ministry, everything was okay. There was some pushback. In Galilee, it's better than it was in Judea. But for the most part, there's freedom. There's liberty. But on the end of Christ's ministry, there's persecution. And in fact, you'll find these same people who Christ is talking to here hold up in an upper room hiding at one place because they're expecting, not at the upper room, but before that, expecting to be next. Their Lord and Savior had just been crucified. They'll be coming for us. You find it as the Holy Spirit comes in the upper room. You'll find they still, at times, find themselves hiding. When Peter's in prison, they're gathered around praying that the Lord would protect Peter. James has already been killed. He has already followed the Lord in martyrdom. And Peter's in prison, and they're expecting Peter to be next. They're waiting for word to come that Peter has been killed. And Peter comes and knocks on the door. Brother goes and answers the door, and they say, no, it can't be him. He's in prison. There's while we're here, we're praying for Peter to be out of prison, and he can't do the door, he's in prison. But listen, time's different. And so I asked the question, again, what is the takeaway? Well, I did note something. He didn't tell them not to go in Luke. He told them in Matthew and Mark, you're to go and do this right here and not take anything. The only thing he changed was you need to take some stuff with you now. He's still sending them out. There's still a command within that to go. There's still that idea. Just now you got to have your sword. You got to have your provisions. But you still need to go. Still need to go. I'm reminded in the book of Ecclesiastes, chapter 3, verses 1 through 8. You know the verses better because of the song that's sung back from the 60s, I guess it was. There's a season for every thing given under heaven. There's a time to plant, there's a time to sow, and there's a time to reap. There's a time to kill. There's a time for war and a time for peace, and I forget all the different words that are in there, but there are different times. And I think in looking at this, in Mark, you got to know your time. You still need to go. You still need to tell people about Jesus. But it may be that you need to take with you your credentials. So when they're booking you in jail, they'll get your name right. Okay? You still need to go. But it may be that you need to take a sandwich. You still need to go. Just may change. Different times may determine different things that you need. It may be that you go and you don't need anything. But you need to know your times. You know your situations around you. You need to know whether you're going to a place where they will be received or where you're going to be rejected. You got to be prepared. Some way. But you still need to go. It may be that, like in the book of Matthew, that you go to another city because the city that you went to didn't receive it. But you still need to go. You still need to go. Let's get a song here once again. know your hearts tonight.